to the Slide Getting Tech Simplified channel, and today I have a special guest with me. Her name is Michelle Suedel, and she's a CISO, and she's going to tell you how she got started and how she's continued to thrive within the field of IT. So Michelle, would you mind telling my audience a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I am currently the CISO for Guaranty and Title Co in North Dakota. We have offices in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Montana. And we're moving our Montana office tomorrow, so it's on my mind. And I've been here for 7 months. And prior to that, I was IT and security for a bank for 12 years. And prior to that, I did network administration, system administration, help desk, all the nuts and bolts, back to my school days.
All right. Well, that's great. Can you share how you got started in the industry and what was your educational background? Because I know you touched on it, but can you unpack that a little bit more for the audience?
For sure. I was given a great example by my mother. So when I was in middle school, my mom went back to school and she went back to school for IT. So she gave me a great example to live by. And so when I started out in professional jobs, I wasn't very happy with what I was doing. And I went back to school and I went for Microcomputer and Network Technology was the name of the degree at the time. And it was at a tech school. And so I was a married mother of a 2-year-old. And I was in college with a bunch of technical guys. And so it was pretty crazy. Yeah. And I graduated and started working at one of my internships. And that lasted for a little while. When they had a promotion available to go to a network administrator job, I was passed over. So I started looking elsewhere. And I went to a company that would give me that opportunity and started there as a net admin and then moved up. And then that company was sold to an investor. And so it was kind of falling apart. And I started looking again and ended at the bank that I spent 12 years at. And that really, I started as the only IT person. There was no security structure there. There were no policies, no real technology in place. There was computers, but they needed a lot of help. So 12 years there, grew a team, had 10 people on my team when I left, and left them in a really good position. I was just ready for a new challenge.
Oh, that's awesome. You had a lot of cool gems in there. First is, let's unpack. Can you talk a little bit more when you went back to school and you were the only lady in your class?
Yeah.
How did you mentally prepare for that? And what would you share with someone who's going through that right now?
I have always known I'm a little weird. So before school even, I could have said I knew I wasn't going to necessarily fit where I was, and I'm okay with that. And so I think that's a big piece of it, is being able to say, this is who I am.
Yep.
And that's okay. And not even just okay, but that's great. And so that was one big piece to it. And then I really think my mom doing that, having that role model, having that person who set that tone for you, that you can do this and you can be that anomaly out there and it's perfectly fine, was really big for me too. And when I was in school, I was very dedicated to school. I had a 2-year-old. I wanted to be able to provide a life for him. And so I studied my tail off. So the people who knew IT, I killed them on tests. And I screwed up the curve for them really badly. And it was really great. So by the time, the first semester was done or the first year was done, they were saying, hey, can we study with you? Instead of kind of acting like I was a weirdo. And so that was pretty cool. And I left there. I mean, when I graduated that with a 4.0, just from working so hard at it. And when I started school, this is embarrassing, but funny and kind of cements it, is I went to the school office or bookstore to get a copy of Windows because I needed it for a new laptop they were building for me. Mm-hmm. And they sold me Office, and they were like, you don't need Windows, you need Office. So I didn't know the difference. And this was back in 2001. And so it wasn't like everybody used computers all the time like they do today. But that was when I started school. That's how non-techie I was, and then left there the way I did. So my internship in school turned into a full-time position, and that's where I started, was from a full-time role after my internship.
That's amazing. So you dropped some more gems there. Talked about having that role model. Big shout out to my big brother. He's the first in my family to go to college. Came back, he was a little bit older than I am, and told me the power of, communicating, told me the power of really invested into my studies to push myself a little bit further. And I started off in a community college. Most people don't know that. And then I went to the University of Buffalo because he suggested I go away for school. And that was the best thing I did. That showed me I got exposed to a different level of students that were competing. Like I had ladies just like you messing up the curve, and I'm the opposite. In college, I got a 2.9, man. I just figured it out. But when I got to my tech classes, I've been doing it since I was a little kid for free. So I had like a 3.7 or something in that in my marketing classes. But my gen eds and overall a 2.9, and me trying. So like, man, you're definitely messing up the curve. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Another thing you talked about there is embracing your personality and accepting that. I think that's something took me a while to learn as well, is you got to be okay. I'm a little bit, I'm a nerd. I'm just going to call what it is, and took me a while to accept that. And once I did, you can start bringing that into your workplace, right? You can lead the way you like to lead. It's okay. And I thought that's something that I think a lot of people still struggle with being themselves, because I am. I'm just the way I am. So that was pretty cool. So I'm thanks for sharing those gems, because I think those two things, that having your role model and also having the courage to be yourself, and the striving is now propelled you to be where you are. And another thing you shared is, even if you don't have any security knowledge, right, you can learn, because I didn't know the difference between a switch and a router. I learned it on my own when I was younger, but I didn't know. It took me some time. Like even now, I go into conversations where I have no context. Like I'm talking about at work, conversational AI. I didn't know what that meant when they talked about it. I'm like, okay, I guess it's some conversations in artificial intelligence, but I can't tell you what that meant. I just started reading, learning, and as I go through it each day, I'm starting to learn more about it. I can have an educated conversation, eventually go deep on it. So I say that to say again to the audience is, I know it might be a little bit intimidating, but if you stick with it and really apply yourself, you could be a CISO just like Michelle, right? Or a partner technology strategist like myself, even if you're not even in technology today currently.
So. For sure. And going back even further, the first time I was in college, I left on academic probation.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've been in school 3 times. And the first time was academic probation. The second time was my tech degree. And the third time was mostly for a piece of paper as a bachelor's degree after I was already 10 to 15 years into professional work, to just kind of separate myself with another degree. And so you just keep learning, right? No one started as an expert. And with technology, really, if you think 18 months, right, of everything is new in tech, there's, even if you've been in technology and security, there's always something new, and there's always another angle to it. And being open to that and being curious about it and learning about it and not getting in your own way is so important to all of us being able to progress with technology and security.
You said that well. That's a mic drop moment right there. Is even for this, I'm going to tag it always be learning, right? Because I'm always learning something new, whether it's personal or it's just within the field of technology. And unfortunately, I can't be an expert in everything, right? So you're going to have that curiosity. If you don't want things to change, that's an indication this might not be for you, because my role changes. Like I thought I was the man of VMware 5.0. I think it's up like to 8.0 now, probably. I don't know any of that stuff now. I was the man before a few years ago, but now I'm back to being a rookie because I've been out of it for a while. I haven't reading it. So again, you got to constantly upskilling every day, finding ways to learn. And if you haven't seen my other videos on my channel, I got different tools in there that you can use to learn the top learning sites I share. So go watch that. So let's keep going forward. What would you have told yourself earlier in your career, Michelle? And what can someone do now to hone the skills of a CISO? And let's take it a step backwards. It's 3 questions. What is a CISO, and what does that actually mean for people who don't know what a CISO does, and how does a day look like?
Yeah. So I'll go back to like the comment I made earlier about just being yourself and being proud of being yourself. I think that is what almost everybody lacks at almost every level.
Okay.
And still, you know, there's people who talk, and the buzz phrase I think right now is that imposter syndrome. And it's always been the same thing, right? Is you think maybe you're not good enough, or you think maybe you're not smart enough, or you think someone's better. And so just the message I would have given to myself younger is just to knock that off. Like, comparison doesn't work for anyone. So that would be what I would say there. For the CISO, I think every CISO role is also different. So when I was at the bank, it was a different role than it is today for me at Guaranty and Title. And so today I am kind of reconfiguring all of our IT, all of our user experience, all of our user access, all of our infrastructure to make it more secure and resilient. And so my day is all over the place. I might be in our ticketing system, making sure our users are being taken care of and that they're getting their needs met and their systems are working appropriately. And then I might be reporting to the board of directors on what we're doing for backup as a service and disaster recovery as a service, so that if ransomware hits us, that we're prepared to be able to be up in a few hours instead of a few days or a few weeks. As we've seen recently with the pipeline, especially, there were articles about their board being told they needed to have a plan in place and needing to change and not doing it. And the first day that came out, I said to my husband, I was like, I would love to see their board reports. Because the board reports are where you're going to see what is that CISO telling the company, what is the external audit or the pen test or the vulnerability assessment telling the board, and then what is the board choosing to do with that information? Are they saying you have no budget, you don't get people, you make do with what you have and deal with it? Or are they saying, okay, this is something that we really do need to pay attention to, and we'll take your recommendation and we'll do what you say? Or, you know, research this and bring us some options, you know, tell us what our options are so we can decide if we want to spend $10, $5 or $1, you know, that kind of barometer for them. Because the boards don't know. They don't understand security. They don't a lot of times understand technology in general.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part, is preparing my CEO, preparing my board to know, here's what we're doing, here's how we're going to protect your brand and your business.
Oh, that's some great insight right there. I feel that was intense right now, because you showed a couple of different things that I wanted to highlight. Is you have hard skills, such as technical skills, to be able to do what's asked of you to uncover that information. But then you have soft skills like communication. I'm assuming you had to have superior writing skills to be able to articulate that to someone like in a business role who might not have any of the background that you have. And how do you go about balancing your day to do both of those things, right? Because I feel like it's a delicate dance you're doing right now. And and you seem like you do it very effectively. So how do you do that? Someone trying to learn how to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces to it, right? I think I couldn't have done this job 20 years ago, because there is so much of that you learn through doing. Experiential learning is huge when it comes to being able to do all of those things and balance them. I could not have done that 20 years ago. Secondly to that, just that curiosity piece to it. Always wondering what that other person's perspective is, always trying to understand where they're coming from, why they think what they think, instead of a lot of times in IT, you hear people think that they're right all of the time, or they'll dismiss something because they think that it just doesn't have any weight to it. It's very important to hear that person because they're the business.
Yeah.
So you're protecting them, but you're also sometimes stopping the business. And you're in the business of mitigating risk as the business determines they want it mitigated. So if you want to stop cyber attacks, what do? Unplug the internet. Can you still do business?
Nope.
No, right? So there's always a level of what's important and how much protection you want to put around it. Is it going to be a fence? Is it a fence with, the little things on the top that would catch you? Is it an electric fence? Is it, what level is it? Because it does have different things depending on how much money it's worth or how much time it would take to fix it. So you're really a tool for the business. And so bringing that curiosity instead of saying, this is how you do it, is a big piece to how you support all of that.
Okay. That's fantastic. That's pretty cool. Seems like there's a lot of pressure with that too, because a lot of your decisions seem like, it's riding on your team having the right data, the right information. So how do you deal with managing your stress in a role that is highly visible and, is essential for the business, like you said? How do you deal with stress? Like, do you meditate? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I am a daily exerciser. Mm-hmm. So there's not a day that I'm not going to be going for a walk, or I'm a spin junkie at home. I just watch videos doing it. I have dogs. So my dogs are a huge thing. At the end of the day, I'm normally on the floor with my dogs. Yeah. And I read a lot, and I love reading, and everybody has a different topic of interest. Yeah. And I read a ton about leadership. And so at my lunchtime, a lot of times you might find me out on my back deck, and I've got a book, and the birds are chirping and the dogs are running around, and I'm just engaged in that book. And my phone's not with me. I don't know what's happening at work. And even I can't say I don't care, because I always care, but I disconnect. And then I track things like that. I track what I eat. I track my sleep. I track my exercise, because just like anything you want to succeed at, you watch it. If you inspect it, then you're more likely to achieve it. Yeah. So I watch my sleep, and I know what impacts it. If I have caffeine, I know I'm going to get a bad night's rest. I don't want to do that when I have an important day the next day. Or if I eat something greasy, right? Like, I'm not going to feel well, and that's going to impact how I interact with other people. And so those things are really important. And then in the end, in cybersecurity, it's been the moniker for a while. It's not if, it's when, right? You're going to get attacked. It's going to happen. If you let it eat you alive, you're really going to be stressed out. If you just are knowing that you did what you could every day, and that you were transparent with your boss and your peers about what is good and what is not good, then you've done your job. And if it comes around that something does happen, you'll have the support of those people around you. You're not on an island.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, I agree with a lot of those things. 'Cause I do those in my life. Like I'm a avid reader. I got my whole book list ready to read. I read a ton of self-help books, a lot of communication books. Starting to incorporate some more leadership books. I read a couple of those. I'm just looking over at the desk right now. I got like competing with analytics. I like that as well. And then where's the other one over there now? Oh, we talked about it, Strength Finders. So I did that.
Yes.
So I actually got that teed up for tomorrow because I got a light day tomorrow to actually go through it. And I took your advice. I ended up giving it to my wife too, so we're gonna do it together.
Yay.
So that's gonna be pretty cool session that we're gonna have. So yeah, I'm always reading. I work out. I wake up around 4:30 in the morning, meditate half an hour. After that, I go on my journal, reflection journal, kind of figure out what I won, where did I procrastinate, and what can I do a little bit more efficiently. And one book I do recommend everyone take a look at is out before. Oh yeah, Essentialism. Essentialism is named the book. For me, someone who's very childlike in the sense that I like to do a lot of things. I have a lot of interests. I write books. I write poetry. I lift weights. I like to lift a lot. I write screenplays. I love this tech stuff. I just like reading in general. I love playing with my daughter. Me and my wife go on a ton of trips. Love being around her, right? So it's a lot of things. But what happens is you can't do everything. And if you try to do everything like I usually do, you usually make a lot of mistakes and someone is getting hurt, whether you know it or not. And usually me, because I probably get everyone happy, but then I'm drained at the end. So like reading this book,
Yeah.
Essentialism, is helping me now. Like, all right, at this moment, what do I need to do? Right.
Yeah.
All right. I got 10 minutes before I talk to Michelle. Let's not start going through my AZ 104 certification training, right? Because once I get in there, I'm like, oh, it's 6:10, and now I'm intruding on your time, right? And you just dedicate it for me. Stop, wait, prepare, just get in there and wait, right? So little things like that, I'm realizing is helping me a lot to reduce my meetings, reduce how I interact with people in terms of just really focus on what's important. Like if I'm talking to you right now, I'm not checking my phone. I turned off that. I'm not doing anything else but being present with you right now because at this moment, that's what's important. So that's something that I wanted to share. And that goes into my next question. You said that you're an avid reader. What books would you recommend the audience read?
I read a lot. Right now, the book I'm reading is actually next to me here, which is The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking, the
Ooh.
Susan Cain book.
Okay.
And I'm an introvert, so I can manage my energy really well, but I'm an introvert. Other books, I really love the Crucial Conversations and Crucial Accountability series.
Yep.
I think those are really, really good. And then last year, I read a book called Range, and it's about generalists in a specialist world. And so, the things that we've been talking about is the world expects you to be an expert on something, but most people have this wide range of experience and wide range of knowledge. And so seeing that as a gift and seeing that as something that is to be loved is a good thing. And then Blink is the other one that I thought that was really a good one that impacted me. And I've shared that book with a lot of people. And that goes to like your first impressions and your biases and how transparent you really are to people who can see it. And then, like you said, the Strengths Finders. I just attended the summit. So they have an annual 2-day summit, and I love Strengths Finders. I think it really helped me when I was looking for work too, because I knew these are the things I will be good at. These are the things I will excel at. And these are the things maybe not so much. And so when I had some job offers that didn't sit on my strengths, I was able to decline them without even hesitating because I knew they would not be fulfilling for me. And so doing that test and then having those materials to help you figure out like, who am I and how am I best in the world? I think those are really valuable.
That's great. That's a really nice list. I'll make sure to add that to the show notes for everyone listening. Hope you had your pen because I got a few of them that I just got to incorporate. And that Strength Finder is something that I'm very excited because I did something similar when I was younger. I went through a couple of strengths, and I always had the gift to gab, so I'm more introverted at times. Sometimes I do in social settings. I become the extrovert. Like if you put me in like a bar, I don't drink, right? So when I go there, I don't really got anything to talk about. I remember one of my mentors pulling me in, like, go mingle, go talk. I'm like, what? I just want to go read my book right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the best with small talk because I want like, well, I just got the house done. You want to talk about, how to make some more money. I'm about to make this deal. And, sometimes people want to talk about the movies they watch. I'm like, well, I already watch movies like that, So
Yeah.
I just got better to help me at that. I had a couple of things that I read. One was, negotiation, never split the difference. That book was fantastic because that helped me ask better questions.
Yeah.
Even when you're not negotiating, I found that I can sustain conversations better without even talking. And I realized most time people didn't want to hear me talk in the first place.
And
So,
people love talking about themselves.
correct.
So it is truly, you're getting what you need because you're not in the spotlight.
Yeah.
And they're getting what they need. And they're going to leave there thinking you are the most fabulous person on the face of the planet because you asked them questions. They talked and talked and talked.
I realized that. And I used to be that guy, right? Now, so, my grandma told me something, she asked me a question. Why do you have two ears and one mouth? I'm like, no, enough said. I'm like, that makes perfect sense,
I love your
Uh,
grandma right now.
so like, it took me a while to she always told me like, you have the gift, but it could be a curse if you don't know when to use it and when not to use it. And that's something that, I'm still tailoring as I go on. But, and I also realized that you're not the same person in every situation, and that's okay. But I'm glad that you mentioned those books because those definitely help. Because in my role, I'm used to being a specialist, right? My last role, I focused on security. That's all I did. My role as a partner technology strategist, a little bit more broad. Like my job is to know level 100 and 200 about the whole entire Microsoft portfolio, from Azure and AI to security or to teams, right? Productivity. And first, I looked at that as a bad thing, but then I'm like, well, that's kind of better where I am anyway. I could do the 100, 200, 300. I could get deep,
Right.
but I don't really like being there. I don't want to be the person inside configuring. I used to do that. And I didn't like that role because it wasn't communicating with the customer. It wasn't talking about strategy, building relationships where I get energetic about, right? And I took a director of product marketing role. And two things I learned in that is I don't want to be behind the scenes doing all the marketing and writing it for everyone. I like to talk about it. I like to share it, but I don't want to be there. I wasn't happy there. Like I was able to do it, but I wasn't happy. And second thing I learned is it all depends where you at in your life, right? I just had my daughter and I realized my priorities shifted and I switched from a large company to a startup. I didn't realize the different demand on your time when you're at a startup because in a company as large as Microsoft, there's 100 of me, right? And then there's 100 people behind me, 1,000 people behind me, right? So yeah, I still make an impact, but it's not as significant when you're in a startup. So when you're looking at those roles, look at that also. What makes you happy? I love building relationships like we're doing now. That is something big for me. But I like getting my hands dirty and getting technical every now and then. So I need a role that I can do that. And I love learning. Soon as I realize the job has nothing else for me to learn, there's no reason for me to be there anymore. And I start looking for something new, right? And the one thing I love about my role and with, you know, you know, with Microsoft is they embrace always be learning. Like they give me free access to books. They give me training, LinkedIn Learning. So, for me, I'm like a kid at a candy store, right? So that's something that you got to find when you find that culture. But that's enough about me.
Satya was one of the keynotes at StrengthsFinder Summit.
Really? Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
It doesn't surprise me.
So your Microsoft connection is there too, talking about what gives you energy and finding that job that gives you energy. And it sounds like you definitely have.
Yeah. So, I definitely like this role for now. But I do want to be a team leader. So I've been talking to my manager about those things. Where do I need to grow in? So I think the first thing is to change what I'm consuming, right? I've been in more leadership roles now because I own property. I have my own business. I have multiple businesses in the past, right? But again, those are smaller scales. I had like team of me or maybe one person, right? They're not as scalable. So I'm learning how to be a better communicator writtenly, because orally I'm good, but when it comes to written, I could do a little bit better there. So, but again, I put some systems in place to make those things easier. And as you transition into those leadership roles, and those are cool, So, but for right now, this role is very it's a perfect role for me right now. So, I guess to end and to wrap up this conversation, because it's been, I think it's one of the best ones I had. I know, man, we had a lot of amazing ladies, but I think you might have just took it to the next level. So before we go, how can the audience contact you, Michelle?
I am on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. I check LinkedIn in the morning. That's one of the first things I do. And I follow a lot of people on there and share a lot of content about leadership most of the time and about security. So Michelle Suedel on LinkedIn would probably be the best way.
All right. So that's going to be all for today. Sly Gittens and Michelle Suedel are out. Peace.